So I'm going to start off as the home team, Illinois. We're going to start off with Coach Bret Bielema, opening statement, and then we'll go to Coach Arnett.
Well, great. Very excited to be here. Just came from the practice field. We really enjoyed our time here. Came down on the 26th and had some great interaction. I think today they're getting a good chance to go to Busch Gardens, so they're excited about that. Kind of let them run for the first couple of days. And this for us is Tuesday of game week, so we kind of locked into our preparation phase now, still letting them balance a little bit of fun during the day and partaking in some of the things that the bowl game has set up for us. So excited about that. Obviously, had a chance to visit with Zach at the press conference from our fan base and from our university. Obviously, condolences for Mike, a very special coach, and I know someone that's on the hearts and minds from him and his family, and also to Mississippi State. But I think this game is about the reward for our guys. Went through a really kind of a tale of two different seasons. Started off a little disappointment with a Big Ten loss at Indiana, and then to go on a 6-game win streak, and then have 3 tough losses in a row, and to cap it off with a rivalry win against Northwestern. I thought to get the bid to come here to Tampa, and a bowl experience I've had with Jim and his organization on several different occasions as a coordinator, as a head coach also. So I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to the opportunity to play on the second. So thank you.
Coach?
Yeah. First and foremost, we would like to thank the Reliaquest Bowl. This has been an absolute first-class experience. Our players are having a tremendous time down here in Tampa. We got to get out of some colder than usual weather up there in Mississippi, and so it's been very enjoyable for us. We're headed to the practice field next, but first and foremost, it's been an amazing experience up to this point, and we can't thank the bowl committee enough. Obviously, we are extremely excited to represent the Southeastern Conference. We're playing a phenomenal opponent who, when you turn on the film, plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. I know our guys have a deep respect and admiration for how they play the game. I mean, ultimately, we're going to have a good time here, but there's 2 hard-nosed football teams going to line up and hopefully put on a good show for all the fans in attendance. Obviously, we are very appreciative of all the different signs of support for Coach Leach and his influence on the game. The thing we've talked about and Coach Leach's family has expressed to us, obviously, we don't want to get lost in this is ultimately a reward for our players for the job they've done this year and the success that they've had. 8-4 football team. They've done a tremendous job this year, and this is a reward for their efforts, because we would not be here if it was not for the work and success that they put in all year round. And so we're excited for one more opportunity. Obviously, the best way we can honor Coach Leach is to go out there and play the way he expects us to play, and that's with tremendous effort and toughness. And we know that Illinois is going to show up and do just that, and so we're excited to share the field with them.
Great. Questions? Leo?
For both coaches, and Coach Bielema, you first, because you've had the most experience with this. You both talked about the rewards of coming to a bowl game. How do you balance the rewards with staying focused on the matter at hand? Yeah,
it's kind of been a unique experience for me this year. I'd never, all the bowl games, 7 straight at Wisconsin and 3 out of the 5 years at Arkansas, I'd never had a player opt out of a game, right? So that was the first challenge. We had 3 guys pop out, obviously, 3 good players. That's the first unique challenge, but we actually had 4 practices in before we even knew our opponent. As soon as you became bowl eligible, I started a in-season 8-week program that allowed our developmental crew to go on an 8-week window of strength and conditioning and training, a little bit extra, and then we had 5 practices for them that were devoted only to our Devo players. So we practiced about 40 to 50 guys. So that was the biggest reward, right? It's really kind of almost like a mini spring conditioning for our younger players, and then even after we became aware, obviously, we're playing Mississippi State in a very good football team. We really didn't transition to Mississippi State preparation until after 2-3 more practices where it was just good on good. We just got good at football again, and then the last 10 practices are all devoted to Mississippi State. So, and then the reward is I just scheduled everything on the front end here, let them have an aquarium day. Our guys hopped on a boat and drove around the bay and saw dolphins. Like, you know, I didn't really join them, but they seemed to get excited about it. So not a lot of dolphins in Illinois. Just fun stuff like that and reward. And today we had a little, I could tell by the attitude walking in the door. I have a team meeting every day. I kind of start the day off with the schedule, what's going to go on, and had a lot of, it was the earliest morning we gotten these guys up because at the 11 o'clock game I kind of wanted to transition them into that, and the mood wasn't there. So I have a freshman talent show pool that any freshman that we're not hazing them, right? They're showing their talents. They get a chance to come up, and Joey Okla did a Conor McGregor impersonation that was to die for the other day, and then today Elijah McCantos and Gabe Ackus had a dance-off that was pretty entertaining, so we kind of sprinkled that in.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely not difficult to reward the players. I mean, obviously, all the different bowl events that are put on, it's easy for them. The harder part is probably making sure they know they're getting ready to play a football game too. Now it's really convenient for us. You turn on the film of your opponent, and you know, your players realize pretty quick that we got a heck of a football game coming up January 2nd, and so that's made it easier to balance it out. But echoing what Coach said, obviously your early practices are more like an early spring. You're working the developmental guys who need extra work. The guys who played all year, they're coming off a long season, so you're getting them back to 100% healthy. And then obviously as you get closer to the game, you ramp it up and get into more of your normal routine. We're headed out for our practice this afternoon. It's a Tuesday game week for us, and so we'll see if we didn't enjoy ourselves too much last night.
Okay, right here.
Brett, you talked about how this could be a springboard to next year, specifically at running back and DB with the guys opting out. What do you expect to see? Who do you expect to make an impact at those positions?
You know, as you guys know, we really got banged up in the secondary at the end of the year of this season. So, you know, obviously Spoon and Sid were huge parts of our back end, our success. But we have been able the last 2 or 3 games to get, you know, Scott, you know, had a tremendous role really from the Michigan game on and played a lot of football for us. Josh McCray on the opposite side of the ball, obviously with Chase hopping out. Josh has been 100% involved in bowl practices. He actually did the Devo practices too because he was cleared to play at that point. So, you know, he's basically a guy that we were counting on big things before the years ever started, and he's never been full strength since Indiana. So he ran right, almost ran over me today. He looks pretty good. So that, and then a guy that Tyler Strain, you know, really had a nice, you know, couple games there at the end. He got knocked out of the Purdue game with a concussion, but has really come in and done a nice job. So I think, obviously, the way these guys play offense, right, our secondary is going to have to be at its best. And Coach Henry, new play caller, right, but he literally called plays all year during practices, during scrimmages. So this was something that, you know, it's new because it's new, but it's not really new to our guys. I really haven't seen any hiccup in what they've done.
Okay, right over here in the front.
Zach, for you guys, you know, I know it was just announced that Emmanuel Forbes will be playing, Cam Young, LaQuincy Sharp, a bunch of guys that, you know, are headed to the NFL that decided to play in this game. I guess, how important is it, you know, for this team to, like you said, honor Mike Leach, and also, you know, how much of a motivating factor has that been for some of these guys to come back and play this game?
Oh, I think you probably have to ask them individually. I know most of them had expressed that they were playing prior to Coach Leach's obviously unfortunate incident, and so I just think it speaks to the guys we got in our program. You know, guys who like playing football, guys who want to play for each other, the other guys in the locker room. I think it says a lot about those guys individually. You know, they're football guys, they're Mississippi State guys, and if we're going to line the ball up, roll the ball out there and line up and play, they want to be with their teammates and finish the season off with them. And you know, those are obviously guys you love having in your locker room, and you appreciate all that they've done for your program.
Just to follow up on that real quick, you know, you guys were dealing with a lot after Coach Leach's death. I guess how's the team kind of responded? What's practice kind of been like, you know, since then as you kind of move back into game form?
Yeah, practice has been good. I think our guys like getting back into a sense of normalcy and routine. Obviously, anytime you go through a loss like that, that's what family's for, and that's what a football team is. And so it's been really good for us to all get back together, spend a whole lot of time together, and go to work. And so, yeah.
Right down here.
Coach, you've had coaching departures as well. You have, I guess, 10 assistant slots to fill. What's your plan to do that for the bowl game?
Yeah, I'll actually name a DB coach here within the next day. I've had that literally the day I made the transition. I knew who I was going to hire. it's actually somebody I actually interviewed before in the original process that I didn't get to. So that one's kind of been sitting on ready, but when he joins us, he'll be kind of more of an analyst, eyes in the sky on game day. But the on-the-field positions have been really filled for the bowl game within our staff with quality control assistants. On defense, Ryan Simerson and Alex Panos, who had been student assistants for us, I've let them step into the role kind of as GAs that are helping, obviously, offensively or defensively, the way we kind of laid it out. Aaron Henry has taken the back end overall with some help. Coach Boo's taking the linebackers inside and outside with Preston helping him, and then J-Mo's taking the defensive line. So that's that. And then Danny Cameron, who'd been with us all year as an offensive analyst, he had worked in the running back room with CP. He had done all of CP's videos, tips, grinders, all that stuff. He'd been doing it all year, so he's easy transition to put him into the running back room. And then, like I said, I'll fill the defensive back position very quickly, but I'm going to wait to hire my running back and my outside linebacker job until after the bowl game. And there's some NFL people involved as well, so I may wait actually till later January until the NFL season's done.
Back there.
Coach Arnett, Will Rogers, he's put up some pretty good numbers this year in the air raid system. Is he unfairly labeled assistant quarterback?
Yeah, I think he probably is. I mean, obviously you judge a quarterback by how they perform and typically the record of your team. And so since he's been the starter, we won a lot of games, and he's played really, really well when he gets us into the right plays. I think I can't speak to every offensive system, but I know in the last 3 years learning under Coach Leach, he gives a quarterback a tremendous amount of freedom at the line of scrimmage to really check into whatever he wants. And Will's got to be up there as one of the best to ever do it in his system. So, yeah, I think it'd probably be an unfair label.
For both coaches, again, Coach Zach, we'll start with you. The portal, great coming in. Now you got to worry about going out. How much of a double-edged sword has that become?
Yeah, it's the same for everyone, right? Obviously, it's a new day and age of college football. Players have opportunities. If there's a better fit for them and a better opportunity for them, then they certainly have the right to go and do that. And obviously, you have the right to recruit and try to improve your team. And so, it's a reality we're all dealing with.
Yeah. When I took the job 2 years ago, I told Josh that it was coming out of COVID and it was entering the portal world, right? And it's really allowed you to, for a coach taking over a program, right, allows you to flip your roster pretty quickly into your skill sets, right? Like not good, bad, or indifferent. We were going to definitely do things differently offensively and defensively than they had prior recruited. So we kind of adjusted the staff and the roster as it goes forward. I didn't even realize I had a personnel meeting yesterday, and it was brought to my attention, I guess, we're one of the top 5 or tied for second or whatever it was in fewest guys in the portal. And I didn't really know that. I don't really count it. I didn't track it, although I've been listening to some of these bowl games, and I heard as high as many as 20 players in the portal. To me, that's like crazy. But everybody runs their program a little bit different. Like we're a development type program, but there's been guys that have come in and helped. Obviously, Tommy DeVito, we're a different football team because of the quarterback, right? That was an immediate one. Right now, we have some portal guys that we haven't been able to talk about yet because and I'm sure Zach is, the portal thing is very frustrating because you can't sign them to anything. I mean, you can sign them to an NIL if you want to burn it, an NLI, right? Not an NIL, an NLI. That's a letter of intent, but it's non-binding. So, they can literally take a scholarship and then go, and there's no repercussions on them. It's just on the school. So we don't sign our guys. So they're not literally going to be committed 100% to our program until the first day of class. For us is, the second January, whatever it is, the 17th after Martin Luther King Day. So it's the NCAA is trying to catch up to it. The 85 rule scholarship really has helped, but I think it's a necessary evil just in the world that we're in right now.
Bret, where are you guys at health-wise? Is there anyone you don't think you'll have available on Monday?
Yeah, not pulling one on Zach here. We're actually 100%. The only guy, Josh Geske, who's a backup lineman, he got injured in bowl practice before we left, and he went through Indy today. I don't know if he'll play, but he's a backup lineman and on field goal. But otherwise, everybody, other than the guys you know about, right, the guys that have missed season all year, everybody should be good to go.
for Coach Arnett, following up the same question to him, your players' availability for this game as well as health. And on top of that, how have you yourself handled the transition to head coach and still being defensive coordinator and getting ready for this game and being involved in the offense?
Yeah, well, obviously, we expect everyone who's on the trip to be available to play, and so we're at full strength as well. And obviously, it's been a learning experience, to say the least. Right? Obviously, got a lot trying to prepare for a great offense. Still being the defensive coordinator, call the defense, but then obviously also responsible for seeing the whole program. Fortunately for myself, got to learn under obviously one of the best to ever do it under Coach Leach, and just doing my best to try to replicate what he would do.
Okay, down here in front.
For Bret, you mentioned it before, but with Aaron Henry, it's not a new responsibility, but maybe a new title. We talked to guys like Johnny Newton and Tyreek Barnes who weren't in his position group, so we know what Aaron's about. So when you were able to make that announcement, how did you feel the team reacted to kind of knowing what Aaron's about and what they're going to get?
Yeah, unfortunately, because of the timing of the whole thing, I believe Tuesday morning I knew that Ryan was going to get the job. I was with Aaron. That's when I told him. And then we were in homes that week, and of course, that was the last week of live recruiting, so I was telling people in the homes, like, hey, everybody want to know who's going to be the D coordinator. I'm like, well, you're sitting right next to him. And they thought I was talking about me. I'm like, no, the other side, right? And I really wanted to keep it under wraps just for one reason. I think there's a great power in telling your players first, right? But it was just kind of the way that it played out. I knew that wasn't going to be possible. And then literally Taz literally called. Aaron and I were in the car. I just told Aaron that I was going to name coordinator about an hour earlier. We were driving to a recruit's home, and Taz called, and he thought he was worried he was going to be leaving, right? So Aaron had begun to tell a few guys that what was happening as well. So, but the reaction has been awesome, and just at practice, obviously there's a game plan involved with Mississippi State. So we'll do a lot of things that we've done, but we'll also change up some things. And I'm excited for the offseason. I'll whoever I bring in there in the outside linebacker room, I know exactly what I'm looking for there. I got a pool of about 5-6 guys, and I'll kind of sort through that with Aaron and the rest of the staff. I'm kind of elevating J-Mo as well to a title that I think those two guys, you can do that when you have guys that know each other. Heck, those guys play together, right? So I think it's exciting about what our defense has been and maybe possibly where it can go.
Right down here in front.
Zach, with this game, you guys are looking to, win 9 games in a season, first time since 2017. I guess, how important is that in terms of carrying, the momentum from signing day with a win here into the offseason?
Yeah, it's always better to go on an off season with a win than a loss, right? Kind of as much fun as you have on these bowl trips, you always remember how it ends, right? So yeah, that's important. Obviously, we did a really nice job. Our assistant coaches, I've failed to mention them up to this point so far, but they've probably been the biggest benefit to me throughout this whole process is how good those guys have done, and they did a heck of a job. We held our signing class together. Pretty much everyone was committed, signed with us, and it would be a gigantic springboard into the offseason to leave with a win. But we know it's going to be a heck of a challenge because of the opponent we got to face.
In the middle.
Brett, I'm sure whenever you have coaching change, your players have questions. What do you tell them about, moving forward, about, if they have questions about what's happened?
What's kind of been new to these guys, I think, is they had been around a staff that they loved, right? I cried when Ryan called, right? Like, he and I got emotional, and, when CP and I had conversations, but it's kind of cool to see that, right? Like, you got to teach your kids how to build relationships and how to feel bad when someone leaves because they've impacted your life. I remember when I was a young player and my outside linebacker coach left to take a job at Wisconsin, right, when I was at Iowa, and I remember going through a lot of emotions back then. So I think it's been awesome. I think I did kind of in my own way tell those guys, listen, the guy that hired those other guys is still here, right? So I'm going to probably do it again. I think anytime I replace an assistant, I try to build on what we've already done, but I like to bring in a different, kind of not an opposite, but a different way of doing things. I think in the outside linebacker room, I'd really like to bring something that brings a lot of pass rush value. I really think we have an outside. Kevin had done a great job of building that room. That outside linebacker group might be one of the most talented groups I've ever been around, just in the pure numbers and quality of players. And then obviously running back, with Chase leaving, one of the best in the country, but I feel pretty good about some of these other guys we've recruited. So I think it's been overwhelmingly amazing to me how many people have reached out to me about these two jobs. The DB job, I think, got out there pretty quick in the community what I was going to do, so that hasn't been a big one. But outside backer and running back, it's going to be fun to see who I want to go with.
There we go, right down here.
For both coaches again, and Coach Brett, we'll start with you. Was there a play or a call during a game this year that you just had to laugh at, or, and I know this is a bad analogy, or you've been pulling your hair out?
Yeah, I had pretty lucky. Obviously, Coach Leach gave me complete freedom to call whatever I want, whenever I want, and so there's probably been a few too many zero pressures and some really bad times, and it's gone the wrong way. But yeah, so whatever hair I have, yeah, I definitely pulled it out there. Yeah, and I just got to say, if these guys can build upon and improve upon that defense, I feel bad for the rest of the Big Ten, because that's been some of the best defense. As a fan of just defense and aggressive defense, the way it's supposed to be played, the job that they did this year, I mean, it's fun to watch. I know our guys have enjoyed watching it just on film, because that's how defense is supposed to be played. They've done a phenomenal job.
Thanks, Coach, and to you as well. I don't know how many people know the storyline. Coach Miller, Bart Miller, and Coach played it together back in the day, so I've been trying to get Coach Miller to share some stories back in the day.
I was on the losing end of that one most times. Don't worry.
But well, the question is whether there's a.
Was there a play or a call during a game that if you didn't laugh at it, you'd pull your hair out?
I shouldn't comment on that. I might get fined.
I can comment on that one, actually. I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I get a couple other choices as well. No, I think the one thing that's really fun, is just being in year two, and Coach will get to know this now. When you take over a room, right, when you, as a head coach, one of the most rewarding things you can have is player success, right? Like, wins are great. I got notified yesterday that 4 of our guys are invited to the combine, right? So I called all those guys last night, and just to hear that voice, like that, to hear their reaction. So, we had 19 guys get academic or get all conference. We have 10 guys coming back that were all conference players. I think my first year we had 3 or 4 players all total, right? And now we have 10 returning. It's fun to see these guys build. The tremendous challenge to, at first we'd heard a couple different SEC teams, and then when I heard Mississippi State, I think I got intrigued with. I knew our guys would really enjoy the challenge of this game, right? Like they love playing football, and they're very unique to anything we see in the Big Ten, So it's really been easy to lock these guys in. I don't know what kind of success we're going to have, but you turn on Mississippi State's film, defensively, the things that they create, the movements and the pressures and the design and the return, and it all makes sense. But they got to sort through it, and offensively, for what they do, defensively, it's a hard task for us to see what they're doing or get a gauge on what they're doing before the snap, and it's just a really cool preparation. I think our kids really have enjoyed the process of preparing for an opponent. That's what we've been, because there's no rules now, right? In bowl prep, it's unlimited. You don't have to worry about 20 hours, right? Like, and for coaches and for players that love the game of football, the more you can teach and coach and slow the game down, the better they'll play, and that's what's fun about the bowl game.
Yeah, right down in front.
Brett, I'm curious, you mentioned watching Mississippi State's defense on film. What are your impressions of Emmanuel Forbes, not only the way he can get interceptions, but also bring back the touchdowns as well?
I hope he doesn't get any of those reps. But very opportunistic. We have a phrase in our program, CTOTTY, catch the ones they throw you, and he is very opportunistic. A lot of that's, the quarterbacks are facing a great deal of pressure, right? And it's not necessarily physical pressure, it's mental pressure. What Coach does schematically is a very tough challenge to know anything that's happening before the snap. So I think a lot of times quarterbacks are thrown into what they think they are going to see, and the answer ends up changing in the middle of the play. And that's a very hard thing to simulate game speed-wise for our quarterbacks in this preparation.
Get 2 more questions here. There's one here, and then Leo.
Brett, as you work on filling out this coaching staff, how, if at all, has the pitch changed just given what you guys have done in your first 2 years at Illinois? Or the interest, I guess, in being part
I mean,
of
for
it?
being on our staff?
Yeah.
I think, you know, what's amazing to me, I can't imagine what Zach's going through. Like, so when I had to make my first staff, right, I remember I kept 2 guys from Coach Alvarez's staff. We played our last game here in the Outback Bowl back then, and then I basically let 9 coaches go, right, off a team that went to a bowl game. And I was very emotional about it, and ironically, as the world plays out now, the person that helped me get through that was my mom, right? She knew I was very distraught, and she said to me, we actually played a home game against Michigan and won that game, and I was just kind of sitting over in the corner. I knew that the next game was going to be a bowl game, right? And she said to me, she said, I know you're upset about what you're going to do with this staff. And I said, I am. And she goes, well, keep in mind, this staff was Coach Alvarez's staff. You got to make your staff, right? And that was a huge turning point for me because that's the way I kind of began to view it, right? And that's when I made some transition. The next year we won 12 ball games, right? And I didn't know coaches at all at that point, right? Now I'm 52, getting ready to turn 53 here in about 15 days, and I just know so many more people, right? And I've never hired a friend, right? Now I've hired former players, and actually, when I gave Aaron a job, he said, I didn't think you'd name me because you always say you don't want to hire a friend. And I said, you're not a friend. And I kind of said it like that, and I didn't mean it like that. You're a former player, right? But he has become a friend, right? But I just don't ever believe you don't want to jeopardize a relationship. I have to be the head coach, right? And to be quite honest, I'm close with my staff, but I also learned early on, like if I become too close with certain coaches, it becomes cliquish, right? So I've really kind of surrounded myself, my inner circle are guys that aren't in football, right? And then my coaches, but I've gained interest from guys that are on bowl teams, guys that are in the NFL. It's really been amazing. Now Josh affords us the ability to pay him well too. So I give a lot of credit to Josh and the administration because it's financially a good move to coach at Illinois as well.
All right, Leo, last question.
And for both coaches and Coach Bret, we'll start with you. When you start this season, your goal is to be one of those 4 teams in the college football playoffs. When it doesn't happen, Tampa, 80 degrees on New Year's Day, that's not a bad alternative, is it?
No, it's and Zach said it best, right? This has got to be a reward. There's obviously byproducts of getting your team, younger players, reps, and all that goes into it. But as soon as I heard, this bowl, I've known Jim and his family, been in the Outback Splash, the spring event, been down here to that several times. My wife's from Tampa, so we couldn't have drawn it up any better to come down here and spend a few days, and especially the weather the last couple of days has been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, our program, obviously there's a particular game on Thanksgiving Day that we prioritize over all others, and our guys handled business and got the win in that one. And obviously as a reward, it got them to be here on January 2nd in Tampa and this beautiful weather, and we're certainly enjoying ourselves, and then we get to play a heck of an opponent again. So, I'm going to echo it again, right? Bowl games are about the players, right? It is a reward for the season they've had, the work that they've put in, and the success they've had. And both teams have had incredibly successful seasons, and they should be, the players should be commended for that. And I know as coaches, right, we're honored to just be the guys who get to work with them on a daily basis, and we're excited to watch them line up and strap it up one more time and go at it on January 2nd.